Hi, this is Rhys from Canadian Politics. So you know. I am here with it's just me. Sorry, I'm doing this because Jesse is tired. This is a very, very random bonus episode. Essentially, me and Jesse got invited to talk at a conference. We had a great time. And we want to say thanks to Nick and his team from the Disrupt It 2021 conference with CPHR. Basically, Nick listens to our show and was like, hey, we do HR conferences and people say that, our industry is boring. How about you do the Canadian Politics is Boring treatment on our HR conference? So we did HR is Boring, which was an exclusive event for attendees at their conference. And we thought, well, why not? In the ever pressing need for content, why not share this since the event has happened with our audience? You might get a kick out of it. We talk about the origins of HR and how Joseph Stalin used HR to take over the Communist Party and used HR for evil. I hope we did stress that we were hoping not to inspire HR professionals to use their powers for evil, but enjoy it. It's different. It's a bonus episode, and hopefully you'll learn a bit about HR.
Welcome to Canadian Politics is Boring.
Hello, Disrupt It 2021. Welcome to HR is Boring, or is it? I'm Rhys Waters, and with me is the dancing man, Jesse Harley.
Hello. At your service.
So we should probably start by telling you a bit about who we are and what we do. So we are a podcast called Canadian Politics is Boring, and it's about me and Jesse. I'm a new immigrant. Jesse's an apathetic Canadian. I'm learning about Canadian politics. Jesse doesn't care, and I'm trying to make him care by teaching him fun, exciting stuff that isn't boring. And we are here to do a treatment of that on HR. Have I missed anything, Jesse?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah, you're gonna teach me how HR isn't boring, and if these people want to watch me be educated, then that's fine. I guess I'm okay with that.
But like HR,
my coffee in my kitchen.
Like HR has a similar perception to politics. I think like a lot of people assume that it's boring, but it's complex. It involves people, and people are messy and complex. So imagine that, if you're doing your job right, you don't get noticed in HR. So I can understand why. So this is me. I've dug into some historical stories from HR, and it's fascinating.
I just want to say I'm already disappointed because in chat we had Lindsay McDonald and then Lindsay Ross, and then the third person was a Candace, and I was really hoping it was going to be another Lindsay. Oh. So just like a nonstop stream of Lindsays. But please continue. Yeah,
stop being distracted by the feed. Anyway. So I'm gonna basically take everyone on a kind of like a roller coaster ride through some moments in history of human resources. All right. And the kind of the adventure. I mean, I tell you what, before we go into Jesse, have you got any HR? How have you interacted with HR in the past? Have you ever had any HR?
I haven't had any like juicy stories. Really, if that's what you mean, like streaking into work or anything like that. Nothing where they've had to chase me down and tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. No, I've like I know you're saying something.
I've the only HR experience I have, which I was talking about before the stream started, was that I turned up 4 hours late for a shift at a cinema when I was a student, and the manager ran up to me and had no idea who I was and thanked me for coming in to cover for my own shift. So it's like, no problem. I'm happy to help. So the human resources field as we know it kind of started in 18th century Europe. 18th century, yeah, but not obviously. It looked very different. The workplace was a very unhappy, oppressive, and often dangerous place. You know, slavery hadn't been abolished in the US at the beginning of that century, for instance. So, you know,
HR, I don't know how slavery and HR would go work together.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't a happy time to be in the workforce necessarily during that period,
right?
For so many people, but there were two people who came up independently with different ideas that kind of kick-started the story of HR. So there was someone called Robert Owen, who was born in 1771, and there was somebody called Charles Babbage, who was born in 1791. Babbage, and
that's
they were
a last name.
Yeah, I think Charles Babbage. It rang a bell, and I just realized I think he invented Did he invent the Babbage engine, which was like an early computer, I think? Anyway.
You're making that up.
No, honestly. There's an early computer called the Babbage engine. I don't know if it is him or not, but somebody Google it and find out.
Someone Google for us. Tell us if Rhys is telling the truth. Yeah.
So during the Industrial Revolution, they came to the conclusion, because obviously everyone was coming in from agricultural work and starting to work in factories and drawn to the cities. And so the workplace was changing, and which had never happened before. And they came to the conclusion that people were critical to a successful business, which was revolutionary at the time. So their idea was that the well-being of employees could lead to perfect work, and without healthy workers, the organization wouldn't survive. So Robert
came to the conclusion that if you removed all people from a business, the business stopped running.
If the people weren't looked after properly, they would have been the business. Essentially, you know, if you could almost create the perfect workspace by having welfare at the front of everything you do. So this was their idea, and this was revolutionary at the time because, again, like we've already discussed, you know, work practices were awful, where people would be worked to death, and it was dangerous, and you know, it was kind of a revolutionary idea. So Robert Owen was born in Newtown in Wales, where I'm from. I didn't include him because he was also Welsh. It was just a coincidence, but that's still is a bonus.
We've been down this road before.
So in July 1799, he bought a mill. And at the time, many of the workers were described as being from the lowest social levels. That's not my language. That's the language of these people at this time. And they were described as of expressing things like theft, drunkenness, and other vices that were common. And education and sanitation was neglected. So they had a very kind of, their opinion of the kind of people they had was not very not very modern. Right. I'll put it that way. But at the same time, I
suppose it was modern for the day.
Yeah, it's modern for the day. Not modern. No, in the context of all this time later. But I think the most of the families lived in one room, and they worked long hours, and they were demoralized, and it was a very horrible place to work. So Owen had the idea,
like most businesses in Europe
during this period. Yeah. So Owen's idea was to basically offer them. What you found is if you in the Industrial Revolution, people were building towns, and often the people who owned the mills and the mines also owned the shops and the homes that people lived in. So they would take your rent out of your pay, and then they would charge you food, but often they would charge a lot of money for that food. They were making money from you. What? It was kind of an indentured servitude.
I was just going to say indentured servitude, Okay.
So Owens offered goods at prices only slightly above the wholesale cost. So basically, he was allowing them to be able to afford decent food and enough food, and he would pass on savings from the bulk purchases to the customers, and also he placed strict regulation on alcohol. He thought that alcohol was a big problem and that people shouldn't be drinking as much in the workplace, which was, you know,
in the workplace, like people were
turned up to work drunk. You know, he's ahead of his time.
So hold on a second. So he thought that all of these thousands of workers showing up plastered out of their minds might not be conductive for a healthy workplace is this like? Is this?
Which was
words right now, but
way ahead of his time. So
okay, yeah.
Like, so he tested his ideas.
I'm not failing my words. My words are failing me. This. My words are very disappointed with me.
You're both failing hand in hand. So anyway, and he really he apparently won his workers' confidence, and the efficiency at the mill went through the roof, and everyone was happy. It was like I don't know, like a really happy place to work for the time in that context. And
so they weren't hungover and they had food to eat. And people's moods increase.
Exactly.
Revolutionary.
And the quote from one of the observers at the time was hilarious. So, because one of his things was supporting youth education and early childcare, which is way ahead of his time. This is like the 1800s. Oh, what we need is to educate children and give them, provide childcare for people who are in the workplace, which is mind blowing at the time.
I didn't. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. And mind blowing. That's mind blowing. That's
so. And one of the quotes from someone who observed the workplace was, "The manners of children brought up under his system were more graceful, genial, and constrained. Health, plenty, and contentment prevailed." And the community
prevailed.
And the
from the rooftops, yeah.
Exactly. The community earned an international reputation, and social reformers, statesmen, and even Tsar Nicholas I of Russia visited to see what he was up to.
Okay.
So it's good. It's a happy story.
Is that it?
That's it. Bye, everyone. No, I'm joking. No, that was just Owen. And I'm also gonna look at Charles Babbage because yes, he did. Charles Babbage created the difference engine, which is a very early computer.
Oh, I remember the difference engine.
There we go.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway,
and the first person to program that was a woman. So technically, the first computer programmer ever was a woman. I just forget her name. There you go. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all you've got.
That's my contribution to the show. Thank you very much. Thank you, waiters. I'll be here all week. Yeah.
So then industrial welfare became a thing in the 1800s as well. So
what became what?
Industrial welfare. Was kind of the first form of human resource management. So the laws were starting to be passed to kind of improve the situation for workers at the time. So in 1878, legislation was passed to regulate the hours of work for children of women to limit them to only 60 hours a week.
Oh, my God. Ada Lovelace. That's it. Thank you, Robin Walker.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
So essentially, children, I mean, an 80-hour week for children is a bit much, but 60 hours is fine. And then, but also like earlier that century, they'd also legislated to say that they should actually start inspecting factories as well. Because there's one thing they didn't do. They just let them make things and never bother checking to make sure that like people were fine and that there wasn't a giant spinning sharp metal thing just hitting people as they walk past. They didn't care. But then they were like, oh, maybe we should check in on these places and see if everyone's fine.
Wow. Okay.
Have you ever heard of Joseph Rowntree?
No.
So he was a confectioner and industrialist, but I misspelled industrialist in my notes and put
confectioner, like someone who made candy?
Yeah. Except I wrote industrialist as industrialist. So, but I think he was an industrialist, not an industrialist. So,
okay.
So he was determined to produce top quality cocoa, chocolate, and confectionery, but he was also equally determined to ensure fair wages and a high level of welfare to be achieved for workers. So in 1896, he appointed one of the first ever welfare officers who basically, her name was Mary Wood, and she was a social worker, and she was responsible for ensuring the well-being of women and children in the workforce, which had never happened before. She was kind of there dedicated to do that, which is still crazy because, so children, they were very, very ahead of their time, but children were still turning up to work, and it was a very different era, but at least they, in the context of the time, still ahead of their time and a trailblazer.
I suppose. I mean, it kind of makes sense if like it's horrible, but it makes sense. If there was no childhood education, if there was nobody there to take care of children while the parents were working, what are they going to, might as well, come with mommy and daddy, we'll put you to work. It's another salary we can take. Yeah.
Well, my grandfather, he left school when he was 14 and became
Wendy. Wendy's saying this is fascinating and fun.
Oh, that's always the goal. That's always, wow, there's at the same time, simultaneous. That's great. Yeah. Well, we'll try and keep it up.
It's good that you didn't say fascinating or fun. She hasn't made up her mind yet. Yeah.
Either or. So my grandfather left school when he was 14 to work in a coal mine, and he worked there till he was in his late 50s.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. And that's just, I find that mind blowing. I think a lot of people of his generation did the same thing.
Yeah.
When I was 14, I was no way fit for any kind of workplace, let alone somewhere that involves heavy lifting.
I'm 42 and I'm still not fit for any workplace.
So up until the 1900s, the main takeaway from that era was that workers were no longer seen as expendable resources. The prevailing thought was they were actual people, and they should be treated like people. So going into the next century, although it wasn't great for everyone, it was improving slowly, and people were improving things. So apparently, and this is supposedly the first ever personnel management department was started by the National Cash Register Company in the early 1900s. So what had happened was there were several strikes and employee lockouts, and the leader of the organization organized a personnel department just to handle grievances, discharges, safety, as well as training for supervisors on new laws and practices in the workplace. So
this is the Cash Register?
The Cash Register Company.
I have a quick fun anecdote about the Cash Register company. I'm assuming it's a Cash Register company because it had
the National Cash Register Company.
I don't actually know if it's them who started this or not, but you know how prices are often like 1 penny less. Like instead of $5, it's $4.99 and or $6.99 or $7.99. And we've been taught our whole lives that it's because it's a psychological trick. It makes it seem like it's cheaper. Apparently, it's not true. When cash registers first came out, again, so I don't know who implemented this as a thing. All the prices would be like just straight up like even amounts of dollars, like $2, $1, $3. And a lot of cash register cashiers would just pocket the money and not open till, right? And so they noticed that like, oh, we're losing a lot of money and we don't know who's stealing from us, but we know someone is. So they changed all the prices to be 1 penny less so that they had to open the cash register and give them some change every single time. So the cash register had to be open, which means it was logging a transaction even if it was just 1 penny. So that's to stop thievery. And to this day, that's continued on, even though
everyone's doing tap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Second contribution to the show. You're welcome. Continue, Rhys.
that was very un-Jesse, that contribution. That was both informative and entertaining.
Block and rule. Yeah.
So in 1916, it started to become compulsory in a lot of places to have a welfare worker in explosive factories, and was encouraged in munitions factories. Basically because, it's a very stressful place to work. So
munition factory is very stressful.
And explosives. Yeah, you don't want to drop anything, or, you light a cigarette too early and you're in big trouble. So I think welfare officers, to make sure everyone was fine and everyone was okay, and I think that's a positive thing.
So do you think the welfare officer was there to make sure that like people weren't drunk, smoking cigarettes, or dropping it wasn't for the welfare of the employees, but to make sure that the munitions factory itself didn't explode. Like, make sure.
Well, I think the implication is that if people weren't doing their jobs properly and feeling great about the targets, you've got to make 10 bombs today. Then if things started to go wrong, fall apart, there, it could be catastrophic for them and a 15-mile radius, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that's I was going with that.
And then in the 20th century, HR emerged as a specific field, and there was a person called Frederick Winslow Taylor, who was born in 1856, and he explored what he termed scientific management, or Taylorism, as it's been called. I mean, if you come up with something and they name it after you, then you know that you've done something important. So if you come up with something, Jesse, and they call it Jesseism, then there afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know what Jesseism is.
No, I don't either. It's not so good.
And it was kind of striving to improve economic efficiency in manufacturing jobs was the main focus. So you're right.
Yes, I was just snorting my nose, and I muted the thing so you wouldn't have to hear me. Instead, I'm just doing this, which makes it look really weird. Yeah,
I know. It's like
just bobbing off screen. Yeah,
so you're leaning over and taking a bite of a cake every once in a while. So anyway, he eventually focused on one of the principal inputs in the manufacturing process, labor. So
if I had cake, I'd show it, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hide my cake. Sorry, what was his name again?
Frederick Winslow Taylor, and he was all about the manufacturing process and labor and workforce productivity, basically. So he came up with Taylor's scientific management consisted of 4 principles. This is what he came up with. Rule number 1, replace rule of thumb work methods with methods based on a scientific study of the tasks.
Okay, what?
So rather than just, if you're doing DIY and you look at that shelf and you go, it's about that long, I'm going to cut here, and then you take it back and it doesn't fit. So they're basically saying, to formalize things. So if you're producing things in manufacturing, you're not using kind of judgment or guesswork. Everything is kind of studied and measured so that you're being efficient. You're maximizing the materials you've got, essentially just trying to formalize the process so it's not kind of there's no alchemy involved.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So number 2 is to scientifically select, train, and develop each employee rather than passively leaving them to train themselves. And they didn't have YouTube tutorials.
Right.
So,
what everyone uses today.
If I was going to have to learn a new skill without a YouTube tutorial, and I was expected to train myself, I just make up my own way of doing it.
I actually got a job using YouTube once. It was I thank God I forget the name of the company because I probably shouldn't have said it anyway. But I went and they asked me, like, it was like a graphic design job. And like, oh, do you know this program? Everyone who's taking this job has to know this program off by heart. I'm like, yes, I know that. Of course I know this program. Who hasn't heard of that program? And they're like, oh, you're hired. You start tomorrow. Sweet. Thanks. And I went home and I studied my ass off on how to, I had never even heard the program before. But thanks, YouTube. You got me a job. Anyway.
That wouldn't have flown in Frederick Winslow Taylor's factories. And no YouTube in the 20th century.
So they like in the earliest 20th century. Jeez.
I'd love to see 18th century TikTok. That'd be great. Just people falling off penny farthings and stuff like that. Anyway.
That'd be amazing.
Number 3 was to provide detailed instruction and supervision of each worker in the performance of that worker's discrete task. So basically performance management.
Right.
So not judging how well they're doing their job based on whether you like the look of them, but actually writing down what they're doing and everything. And then the 4th one was divide work nearly equally between managers and workers so that the managers apply scientific management principles to planning the work and the workers actually perform the tasks. Which there's a lot to unpack there.
Sense, honestly.
It all makes sense now, but he was the first person to write this down. So it's like...
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So there was an Italian communist called Antonio Gramsci, and he argued that... What's that?
His names are amazing.
Good. Well, I think that's a great name for an Italian communist. If you were going to come up with one, that's the one I would have gone for. So they argued that the repetitive work...
Communist or columnist?
An Italian communist.
Communist.
Yeah. So he argued that the repetitive work produced by Taylorism and these kind of 3-4 principles would give rise to revolutionary thoughts in workers' minds, basically because they were being treated and being managed because they were being treated and managed so intentively that they wouldn't like being infringed upon in that way.
They wouldn't like being what?
Well, essentially, they're being heavily managed by the management. So for the first time ever, they were starting to really measure how much work they'd done, and are you following the rules, and did you measure this properly, and how are you performing? So he thought it was going to kind of, in that circumstance, that the workers would start to feel like they needed to revolt against the factory because they were being.
No, that makes sense. Like I've had jobs, where that has become a problem, where I feel overmanaged sort of thing. That's
exactly. Well, considering that like no one had ever been managed in the workplace like that before in history, and suddenly they were being managed, this was the point where like they were like, but they're going to revolt. But I think it's like, did you do your job today? No. Ah, well, maybe you shouldn't be working here. Revolt! So in the early 20s, it did actually happen in Canada. So the textile industry was reorganized in Canada according to the scientific management principles. And in 1928, the workers at Canada Cotton Limited in Hamilton, Ontario, went on strike and refused to work because of the Taylorist methods being used. So turns out Antonio was right.
Okay.
Like, stop watching me do my job. Look away.
Thanks, Antonio.
So, like the from the beginning of the 20th century to like the 1930s, I think employers were starting to get compensated more fairly, and I think employers realized that, but through training and development, that they were more valuable to an organization. They weren't as dispensable as they used to be. So HR was moving into a space where it was like, oh, if we train people, we do like performance related stuff, and we can really start to grow and shape a culture and a workforce that is useful to us, and that it's a kind of a two-way street. So that idea was starting to come through, but there were people who were starting to use HR for evil in this period as well.
How are we talking? Hold on. For evil.
With HR, you have a lot of responsibility, and with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, I want to know these HR supervillains, man. This is
okay.
not for like using HR, not for their own personal gains.
I found
evil.
I found one mainly supervillain, and you might have heard of him. His name was Joseph Stalin.
He does ring a bell. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think HR was really I'm guessing it wasn't really used in Joseph Stalin's sort of factories or times at all.
No. Yeah. So basically, Stalin was never seen as he was basically came from the Georgia where. Which was on the outskirts of the USSR.
My God, Carrie, Jesus!
What happened?
Oh, just don't read the chat, man. Oh my God! Oh, sweet mother of God!
I think I just read it. This is our crowd. This is great. So, anyway.
Oh my God, Carrie's gonna have to talk to her HR. You are HR.
Go and talk to yourself.
You're gonna have a nice long hard talk in the mirror later, Carrie.
So Stalin was essentially from a poor background in Georgia, and not from Russia, which was obviously the main part of.
Can we get Carrie on our regular show? Just saying, like.
So Stalin was never seen as being like the right person for high-profile posts in the Communist Party. He was only ever low level. But what he managed to do was get himself in about 1919 to be the head of the Organizational Bureau, which was the HR department of the Communist Party in the USSR. And it was seen as like a boring technical body, and just part of organizing people. But Stalin realized that he was in charge of recruitment and promotion and discipline. So he used his position there to appoint low-level posts and medium-level posts, people who were his friends and sympathetic to him. So over a period of like a decade or two, he kind of systematically filled the organization with people who were loyal to him from this kind of mid-level boring post, and then climbed his way further and further and further.
And this is using HR as like...
Well, he was head of HR, so he basically...
So he could hire whoever he wanted. Well, no, that's not true. That's not what HR...
Well, no, he couldn't hire who he wanted, but he could influence the decisions and things that were going on. And through that role, he then...
So like, oh, you should fire these people. You should definitely, this person's doing a great job. Let's promote them, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So he created like a huge network of people who owed him favors and were loyal to him, so that when it was time for with the creation of the post of General Secretary in 1922, Stalin was basically in the perfect position to oust his rivals and take control of the party, because the party was largely full of people he'd appointed.
Wow.
So, and then so that's how you don't do this. This is not a kind of disruption we want in 2021.
Don't do this. Yeah,
don't use your powers for evil. But it's just to say that
don't follow in Joseph Stalin's footsteps. Is what you're telling everyone today. This is
learn
takeaway of today's lesson. Don't be Joseph Stalin. Thank you.
Yes, if you're gonna walk away with one thing, it's like it's fine. You can have a mustache. You can even wear uniforms. That's totally fine. Whatever you want to do, but just don't be.
You
Stalin.
can dress up like Joseph Stalin.
Not like him, but you can.
Stalin. Okay,
just don't be him.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This is our show, and we always go to World War II and Hitler and Joseph Stalin. For some unknown reason, it always just devolves into that.
Don't wave at passing missiles that drive in front.
I really thought a show on human resources would be free from talking about Hitler and Joseph Stalin. Nope, I was wrong. The takeaway is don't be Joseph Stalin, as it always is at the end of all of our episodes. Please continue.
So, anyway.
So Karen says, if I had $5 for every time I said, if only people would use their creativity for good instead of evil. I thought, Karen, that I was about to read, if only I had $5 for every time I said, don't be Joseph Stalin. And that would have been a totally different, takeaway from. So anyway, sorry, please continue, Rhys. I
haven't been paying attention to the chat.
Like, really, what did you learn from the conference? Don't be Joseph Stalin. Please tell people that, Brad.
Yeah, that's gonna. Yeah, we've got a new T-shirt. It's just gonna say "Don't be Joseph Stalin." There we go. To go with all the other T-shirts. So
please continue telling me how I should not be Joseph Stalin. All right, and all these other wonderful people. Yeah.
So then during the 1920s and onwards, then the job titles like labor manager and employment manager were introduced into the engineering industry and other industries, and where there were large factories. So it became.
Are we still talking about Joseph Stalin?
No, we've moved on. We've moved on. Yeah. Okay, you got to learn to move on from Joseph Stalin, Jesse.
We've moved. Okay, that's all right. I don't know. I can never tell. It always just blends so seamlessly in our shows, right? So what time period are we now? What's going on? We're not.
This is kind of 1920s onwards. So
okay.
The role of handling kind of absence, recruitment, dismissal, and bonuses was kind of becoming normal in a lot of organizations. HR departments became the rule rather than the exception. But there were lots of different variations of it. So in the 1930s, after the economy started to pick up again, there were lots of new corporations emerging in new sectors. And they really saw the value of improving employee benefits as a way of recruiting the best people. So this was the first time that HR was seen as a recruitment tool rather than just a management tool, where if they were like, hey, what if we did look after people and really dedicated people came to work for us? Wouldn't that be a novel idea? So, rather than just the old fashioned way of shouting at them and overcharging them for food. So
revolutionary
or over managing them. So but then older industries like textiles and mines and shipbuilding at the time that were hit by recession, they tended to just be slower to adopt those techniques because they had no difficulty recruiting labor because those industries typically were more dependable. And it kind of even echoes that today. You get a lot of Silicon Valley, a lot of the really trendy new sectors are we need to attract the best people. So we need to have, free food or a slide that goes from the top floor to the bottom floor, even though we're all grown up.
God, why haven't I worked in a place with that? Have you?
No, but if you look at all the kind of top kind of tech startups in Silicon Valley, they have things like you're allowed to have, there's just like cats walking around for you to pet, and there's like slides and
can I
ice
tell
cream.
A story about that? I worked at a place called iStockPhoto.com, and it was kind of like, they had just been sold to Getty for like $50 million, which was huge at the time because they were a brand new sort of company, only a few years old. And the owner was this really cool, he had a mohawk and tats, and he's like, I don't care what you wear to work, wear whatever you want. And then the job was kind of boring, but the company was amazing in treating its employees. We had free fruit and free granola bars and free coffee and hot chocolate and everything you could possibly just snack on in the kid yogurt. It was all there, everything you wanted. There was bean bags to lounge around in. Dogs were allowed to kind of wander in and out of the place. As many smoke breaks as you wanted. Every single Friday at 4:30 p.m., they would come on the speakers and say to everybody, stop what you're doing, turn off your computers, and come to the kitchen and drink the beer that we bought you. And all the employees would come and get drunk together at work at 4:30 on a Friday. And my favorite part is once a month, they would have a professional masseuse come in and give you back rubs while you worked at your desk. I'm not making that up. It was kind of like a tech startup in a sense, right?
It sounds like you can.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
It's people pay to like go to a health spa that offer those kind of benefits. It sounds like fun, but I think I'd find it hard to separate. I've got a job to do, and I'm here to have fun. I think I would just.
I did have a hard time to separate. I had a very hard time.
Yeah, exactly.
When the company took over, that kind of all, Brad, that did very over a course of a couple of years. Basically, those things all kind of disappeared. Yeah, Getty was very. Yeah. Anyway, I won't get into bad mouthing people I mentioned. Please continue, Rhys.
Yeah, we love Getty images.
We love Getty.
So many images. That's all I can say. So many, all of them. So in the 60s and the 70s, employment started to develop a lot more. So personnel techniques, theories of like social sciences about motivation and organizational behavior. And then like in the 80s, everything just kept progressing from there on out. To where we are today, essentially. And I mean, like the pandemic has probably been a huge test this will probably be a new era, or it'll be written about in textbooks about how HR dealt with everyone suddenly working from home, having to change from that environment of, hey, we're all in a workplace together, to then suddenly have everybody working from their home. I don't think that's ever happened in history.
I mean, like, honest to God, at what point in history did we have to like have meetings and remind people to please wear pants? Like seriously though,
they didn't do that. That didn't happen in the 1800s.
I mean, it might have, but like,
yeah, exactly. The only working from home happened if you were stuck living in a factory where you worked. That was the only instance you.
Go wake up, George. He's drunk again.
He's asleep. He's asleep under that tile.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're having a meeting. Get him to put his pants on. Yeah.
But anyway, but then like sometimes like we're talking about those crazy perks. There's a hedge fund called Numerai that offers people as a perk cryopreservation. So basically, one of the perks is they'll freeze you when you die.
No freaking way.
And the phrase is Numerai cares about its employees beyond their legal deaths. I mean, that's the definition of going the extra mile.
Beyond their legal death?
Yeah, as in like they'll freeze you.
Legal death. So I mean, a murder, I suppose. So they don't. If you were murdered, they don't care. Is that weird?
Yeah. Okay. So as long as they're looking after you while they're still alive, that's great. So
that's amazing. Oh my God! I wonder how many bodies they've frozen.
Yeah, exactly. So another one does vacation roulette. So essentially, everyone comes to work one day with luggage, like they pack their suitcases, and then one of the employees gets to go to Vegas for the weekend. You know, so it's like
Hold on, wait. Everyone packs as if they're going to leave, but most of them aren't.
No, so everyone turns up to work with a packed suitcase.
That's what I did. Yeah, that's what I mean.
At the end of the day, they go, "Well done, Linda. You're going to Vegas," and everyone else goes home and unpacks. But it might be
How many times are they going to be a pain in the butt? Can't you pack after? Can't you find out that you won the vacation roulette and then go pack? Or do you have to leave that second? That's why they're forcing you to pack? That's weird.
I've got to go pick the kids up. No, get on the plane.
oh, what a weird sort of, like, you can't really complain because they're giving away free vacation, but it's like, that's weird. That's just weird. Exactly. I've packed my suitcase 25 times this year already. One of these days, like, just
no, I wouldn't call this a benefit. I would call this, I mean, this would make me personally feel uncomfortable, but there's a company in the UK that does Naked Fridays. So clothes are optional.
Oh my God, what company is this?
I'm trying to find out who they are.
Naked Fridays. Oh my God.
It's supposed to boost morale. It does the opposite effect for me. So it's a, so I would read it. The article's behind a paywall.
It's a porn company, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It's just straight up porn company. That's okay.
No. Some companies they'll pay you to walk or ride your bike instead of driving, so you can get extra $6 a day if you walk or drive.
Oh, that's kind of cool. All right. Can we go back to the HR nightmare that would be, let's have everyone be naked at work? Like,
it's behind a paywall. I can't give any more information than,
like, there's like the problems that go on in HR with like inter-workplace dating and sexual harassment suits. Like, please, everyone show up naked on Friday. Let's see what problems that might create. Like, that would be exactly, Sonny. That'd be an HR nightmare.
Naked Friday was designed to help employees strip away inhibitions, and talk to each other more openly and honestly. It doesn't get more open or honest than that.
Harry's got an erection again. Okay. Jesus. We are never being invited back to this kind of next year. This is it. Thanks everyone. Don't be Stalin. Okay.
So that is the story I've put together of HR.
Wasn't there some sort of thing we had a
secret code?
That's it. Yeah.
So if you want the secret code points, well, first of all, we should summarize before we give away the secret code, because everyone will leave because they got what they needed from us.
Right? Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah.
So, how do you feel? What have you learned, Jesse, about HR through time?
I've learned that human cruelty knows no bounds. Bizarrely, it took like 150 years for companies to realize that their employees actually are what make the companies run, and keeping those employees happy, kind of like keeping gears well oiled, will, surprise, surprise, have the company run better and further. And let's see, don't be Stalin. That's
don't be Stalin. That's
three. Yeah.
That was the bottom in notes in capitals. So before we wrap up, I'll tell you what I learned. I learned that people are being progressively nicer to each other as time goes on.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah, no, that's definitely.
You look back at it. I mean, kids are now limited to only 55 hours in the workplace. So 60-hour work. I mean, we complain about 60-hour work week now as adults if we ended up having to work that amount of time, and to make a child do it is just insane.
Yeah, we've gone from 60-hour child labor to Naked Fridays. This is where we progress. This is your clothes. I don't care. Do what you want.
Exactly,
Harry. Yeah,
exactly. Thank you
everyone in the chat. You guys are being so nice.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And everyone's being really nice to us. Thank you, guys.
Somebody called us a breath of fresh air, which is nice. Thank you. No, you are. No, thank you. So the code is CPB 1707. I'll say that again.
No, don't. That's it. They're writing it down, and that's
CPB 1707. So you can go and get your points, and points mean prizes.
Can we do this too? Can we get prizes?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Probably not.
No, it's fine.
No, we're just we're just handing it out. Thank you all so much for joining us. And if you've got earbuds in, then thank you for sticking us in your ear holes. Big fan of Canadian Politics is Boring. Oh, thank you so much, Nick. That's so nice of you. Yes, if anyone wants to check out our other podcast, it is Canadian Politics is Boring, where Rhys does this exact same thing, but with me, but with politics instead of
every week.
I actually learned a lot about human resources today that I did not know about. I am horrified to know how Stalin used it, although it's not surprising at all that we brought him up. in our show, as we tend to do with either him or Hitler for some strange reason. So,
and on Monday we have an episode drop in that is all about the 1972 Summit Series, the hockey match between the USSR and Canada, and the cultural event it was politically and everything. It's fun. It was a fun episode to do. So
Linda is wanting. Oh, okay, never mind. There are the people.
No. Oh, sorry. CPB. Is my my outrageous accent? Sorry.
Yeah, why don't you do like an acronym for it?
You keep talking over me when I'm trying to read it, Jess.
Canadian politics boring.
And again, CPB 1707. So CPB 1707. There we go.
I just realized the acronym was us. Canadian politics boring.
Well done.
Yeah.
Somebody said go Habs. Somebody said Habs ? And somebody just thanks Craig for subscribing to our podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Craig's a winner. Be like Craig.
Don't be like Stalin.
Don't be like Stalin.
Be like Craig. Not like
Stalin, more Craig. That's what I say. So. Oh, and Brad has to say go Leafs. Does anyone else want us to plug their hockey team? I got 3 kids. One of them supports the Leafs, one supports the Habs, and the other supports the Oilers. So,
what a nightmare!
Yeah, it's a very confusing.
Our time is almost up. I don't know if we're going to just be cut off or what. Mid-sentence, but thank you everyone for listening. It's and I'm just reading the chat.
Bruins.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. We really appreciate coming to your conference and delivering our nonsense. Thank you.
That's for sure. What are you doing the rest of the day, Rhys?
I haven't thought that far ahead yet. I was just focused on this. I
got a big box of Lucky Charms in the corner that's eyeing me down.
Well, thank you, everyone. And wow, it's really nice to see so many thanks and kind comments. This has been really good fun.
Yeah, well, it's 12:45. We haven't been shut down. If anyone has any questions for us for the next minute, I guess maybe we can answer. I don't know.
Do we get kicked off? I've got no idea.
I have no clue. Are we supposed to leave? I don't know how this works.
I'm having fun. Let's stay here for a while. So, yeah. How are you doing?
It until 4 p.m. everyone. Quick, research some more.
I'm just waiting for you guys to end at this point.
Oh, we're okay. Well, we're going to end in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everyone. So that was HR is Boring, our special bonus episode that was for a live conference. And I had a thought while I was while you were listening to this and I was editing it. If you have an industry that you think is boring and you might want us to come and just basically crash your conference and prove to people why your industry is actually very fascinating in the way that we do it, then give us a call, email us or whatever at CanadianPoliticsIsBoring@gmail.com. Maybe you're from a cardboard box company and you go into the International Cardboard Box Conference and then you challenge us to go make an hour-long comedy show, a live podcast that will make cardboard boxes and the history of cardboard boxes thrilling. I'm up for that challenge. If you're a cardboard box entrepreneur, reach out, let us know. It's a weird one, I know, but it kind of worked. We had some great feedback from people who attended the conference, and it was completely different from the proceedings that they normally had. So thanks again to Nick and his team. Nick, thanks for listening to our show as well, and then taking a chance on having us crash your conference. So have a wonderful day, and I don't know. Podcast ending in 3, 2, 1, end.